hear us. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. So just hit those comments, make sure that you can hear us. We have a really special guest on today. And so we're looking forward to hopping in here in just a second. Okay. Let's see. Okay, just waiting for this to come through. So excited to have you here. Looks like people are hearing. Okay. Well, with that, we're going to get kicked off, guys. So like I said, it's week 3 of Your Story Matters, the campaign that is all about you, the creators. We're taking your story from script to screen and having industry experts help us all along the way. We're super excited to have our expert on with us today, and that's none other than Devin Graham, basically the inventor of YouTube videos himself and many, many more things. So we'll be talking to him here in just a minute. But this project, it can't happen without sponsors. Every project that you do, it requires a lot of work. And so we are happy to be partnering today with Homeschool. Homeschool is a brand new platform that releases e-learning content. And one of the reasons we have Devin on with us today is to talk a little bit more about that because it has to do with him. So Devin, can you give us a little bit more intro on Homeschool and what that's all about?
Yeah, so as it was said, my name is Devin Graham, also known as Devin Supertramp on YouTube. I made my entire living by creating videos all around the world. But we just launched a brand new online course, Homeschool, which is essentially 10 years of everything I've learned on how to make a living on social media with YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and how to take that, working with clients, making your own projects happen, working with small budgets, working with big budgets, and sharing every secret that I've learned with you guys. So it's a brand new course. It just launched a few days ago. So they are the sponsor of this video.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. And on that note, we're going to be giving away not 1, not 2, but 10 free subscriptions to this today. So super excited. And so the way that that's going to happen, because we're streaming on 3 different platforms, we're going to divvy it up. So don't feel like you're missing out if you're on Insta or on Facebook or YouTube for that matter. We're going to be doing it evenly across the board. So the way it's going to happen, you're randomly going to be selected. So part of the way that we know that you're on the stream is by making comments. So be making comments throughout this stream, and we'll be able to pull that into our randomizer and get your name on that list. So on that note, Devin, how's doing a giveaway right now sound to you? Does that work for you?
I can't think of a better time than right now. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So we're going to have our assistant here. Let's see if we can get a name coming up. Do some little magic on the back end here. While that is chugging out, today we are really excited to be talking about location scouting with Devin. Now, obviously, locations are a huge deal for any film because that's the background. That's, in some cases, it's often a character in and of itself in your film because it's so stylized or so specific to what's being filmed. And so we're really happy to have Devin on here. Let me see where we're at with this first giveaway. Okay. All right. On Instagram, the 7 dares. Okay. The 7 dares, you're our first of 10 winners. So what I want you to do, and this will be the case for any of the winners throughout this stream today, I need you to DM Rhino Camera Gear and with your email, and we'll be able to get you that subscription within the next little bit here. And it's up to you now to start learning and blowing up your social media. So congrats again to the 7 dares, and we'll do our next giveaway here in just a little bit. So keep the comments coming, keep the questions coming, and we'll be talking again about location scouting today with Devin. So Devin, like I mentioned, locations are a huge deal in videos, and you're no stranger to that. What goes into your selection for picking a spot for some of the videos that you've produced over the years?
Yeah, so I mean, just creating videos on my own, starting off 10 years ago, everything was done with a $0 budget. So I didn't have money to actually spend on locations. So the question I had is, how can I make that happen? So as I was traveling, I went to an island in Hawaii because I was living there at the time. And I would just go to Walmart and I went to their postcard section and I just started going down all the postcards of all the different locations from that island. I started writing them down on my phone. Okay, this waterfall looks incredible. So starting off, I was literally using postcards as my location scouting at Walmart. So nothing like fancy, nothing like crazy. It was just using kind of what was around. Nowadays, a lot of the times, I'll just jump on the internet. If I know I'm going to be in a certain area, for example, I know I'm going to Uzbekistan. This was last year. So I started looking up online top 10 locations in Uzbekistan. And then after that, I'd go on YouTube, top 10 locations in Uzbekistan. And I would just see what other people were suggesting. And then I was looking at Google Images. And then I'm writing down all of these locations. And then I'm starting to look where they're at on the map. And then those are the locations that I'm going to. So postcards, just straight up Googling is also huge. And then also word of mouth by just asking other people that are locals in that area, hey, you're from this area, like what are the top places you would suggest that I could potentially film this type of scene? So those are some of my trade secrets, but you can't go wrong with a couple of good postcards.
Absolutely. That's a genius way to start doing that. I myself, I actually lived in Hawaii for 2 years, and I just think about that like, wow, like that's the perfect way to find some of the most iconic spots, because even in a place where I think most people like that think of Hawaii, think of just the postcards. And if you've lived there, you know that only about like 20% of those islands is that like postcard status. So
No, absolutely.
great way to save you a ton of time going through the weeds more or less of finding some spots.
Well, and one thing I could add to that, because the way the sun is has such a dramatic effect on the location as well. So whenever I think I know the location, then I'm Googling that location name, such as, let's say, Somerset Waterfall. I'll type in Somerset Waterfall sunrise and Somerset Waterfall sunset, just so I can see, okay, this location actually looks a lot better at sunrise. I got to wake up at 5 a.m. instead of wasting my time at sunset when it's all in shadows. So time of day also plays a huge part of it. And I'm usually just researching what other people have done in the past, just from straight up Googling. And that helps, I think, substantially as well with what we're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're like Google's an endless resource, and I think sometimes we almost take it for granted. So just keep in mind that there's so much stuff that's already been out there. So just don't hesitate to go on and make sure you're checking that resource. On that note, we've got two more winners I want to announce right now. One from Facebook. Okay, so if you're listening, David Johnson, you're our second winner. So don't forget, DM us with your email. And the third winner, okay, I'm gonna slaughter this a little bit. Victor Demay with a J at the end. Victor Demyj. So congrats, Victor. You're our third winner, and looking forward to getting you to learn this. One of my favorite parts actually about your pitch video is this, and I'm going to make a challenge to this audience in specific. The one reason Devin's so comfortable sharing this, and I think most industry experts are, is that 99% of people aren't willing to do what it takes, because it's a lot harder than just finding, whether it's that perfect postcard or whatever for a piece. It takes so much backbreaking work. And so I want this group, I know you're hard workers, I want to prove Devin wrong, and I want to get that number up a little bit higher. I want to see a lot of you blow up your social media, because one of my favorite sayings is, a rising tide raises all ships. So let's rise that tide together and go out and create some amazing content. On that note, let's move on to some more things about location scouting. So most of your locations, like you said in the beginning, were free. What about like getting into a spot that's maybe a paid location? What are some things that you have to do, maybe even legally, to make sure that you and whoever you're filming for, the client, is protected? Can you help the group understand that a little bit?
So whenever there's money involved, there's problems that come with that. And now you have to have responsibility. If Subaru comes to you, you don't want to get turned down and the whole production shut down because you don't have a film permit. So we're based in Utah. So the way we go about it now on bigger productions, when I say bigger productions, pretty much anytime there's actual real budget, even if it's a $5 thing, which we normally don't do things for $5, but it's always a first. But let's just say we have Subaru, for example, come to us and say, hey, Devin, we want you to do a big idea. So we pitch, we can do a slip and slide off of a 500-foot cliff. which is what we've done. They approve of it. So then we jump online and we start looking at locations from the Utah Film Commission. So we just type in Utah Film because that's where we're based out of. And they have a massive website of all the locations where they actually already have it set up that it's easy to get access to those locations. Now, let's just say you're not from Utah, because probably most people aren't from Utah. Let's say you're from California. Just look up California Film Commission. I'm sure something will pop up to give you an idea where to get started. But that's what we'll do is we'll use websites like that. And then they usually have contacts of, okay, these are people that do location scouting that work through all the film permits. So then we'll reach out to the people in that area and say, okay, this is what we're trying to do. We're doing a stunt. It's dangerous, but we have professionals doing it. We have a budget. And then they work out all the paperwork so we don't have to do all the crazy logistics. And then they make it happen. Now that costs money though. So that's the good thing about having a budget, is you can hire the right people to do it the right way. But usually it, once again, involves just jumping on the internet and searching the area we're in and seeing what's possible in that area.
Yeah, for sure. On that note too, keep in mind that like filming is a huge process beginning to end, where it's not just about being a director or being a DP. Like there are so many different things. So like as you get into filmmaking, there may be things that you hadn't even heard of, like being, you know, either a professional location scout or an art director or a fixer to find different things. So like maybe that could be what like you find really clicks with you as a filmmaker. So just be exploring different things, and don't just, you know I often get stuck to, oh, well, this piece of gear is really awesome and I want to use that. But like there's so much more to filmmaking. So just be open to options and get yourself out there.
And one thing to add to that, if I can,
yeah, absolutely.
whenever you're bringing on a location scout, like don't think because you're the director, it's your project. Like these people know more about the locations than you do. So it's like every person you're hiring or bringing on, trust them and trust their abilities because they know what they're doing. So for us, some of our best locations are found just by asking the right people and knowing where to go for those right people.
Perfect. Speaking of people being there at the right time in the right place, we've got our fourth winner today, and that's Be Watching. That's from YouTube. Be Watching. You're our fourth winner. So awesome. Congrats on that, and send us your email and we'll get you going with that free homeschool course. So some locations, okay, well, actually, I want to go back to this idea because I've always thought, like, wondered this. When you're watching a commercial, especially car commercials, where it's on either an open street in a city, or even if you're, you know, say in Utah at the Salt Flats, it's going to say closed course, right?
Yep.
What does it take to get into that closed course realm? And obviously part of it's the people like you described, but like, just talk to us a little bit more. I want to hear some more information about really locking down an area for that shoot.
Yeah. So when I first started, we didn't have money. So I was doing these projects, and Speed Stick Deodorant, they saw one of our videos and said, we love it. We would love to buy the rights to use it for a 30-second commercial, but you have to have the film permits to film in that location. We didn't have that. So what we did though, and this is something you can do if you don't have that, is you can actually kind of go back to the government and say, hey, I like to pay a little bit more than what we normally pay. It was $2,000 in this case, to get the film permits as if we had filmed. This is all legal stuff I'm sharing with you guys. But then they gave us film permits saying, okay, they didn't film then, but they got permission from us now, so it's okay. And then we were able to actually do that commercial with Speed Stick because we had the right paperwork. Now, example you use with closed course is we did a big project with Ford, 4 big videos. And for that video, it had to say closed course. And it was literally a closed course where we had fire trucks on both sides, the beginning and end, or it was actually ambulances. And they blocked off the street. So they were legitimately a closed course because these big companies, they have to also be covered legally. So we have to have these little disclaimers at the bottom, like that's the stuff you're seeing. And they have to be like legitimate closed courses in order to have something like that. And that's what we've done in the past.
Awesome. What's that feeling that's going inside of you? I imagine like it's pretty surreal to be like, oh, okay, we like got to show up and we've got to make this happen today. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure because you're hiring a lot of people, and you have like people that are closing down the streets. You have the producers, you have the client, the people that are paying the money, and you're the one in charge of everything. So if it fails, it is your fault. And that is a lot of pressure. And I mean, we've done so many shoots now where it doesn't it doesn't really feel like that. Like when I go out, I'm just creating a movie. Before that, when I started, there was so much pressure. It was almost like too much to handle. Now I feel I'm kind of used to that pressure. So it's not as bad. So it's just something that you get used to over time, and that pressure slowly goes away, but it's always kind of in the back of your head.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, that's so much great advice. We have our fifth winner ready to announce. The fifth winner is on YouTube, Julian. Julian, the fifth winner. So DM us your email and we'll get that course all set for you. So on locations, we've talked about, exteriors, we've talked about closed courses. What about like interiors? I need to find a spot that I can film. What are some tools or different approaches that you take for finding that spot that's just right for your projects?
So a lot of times you can't have the perfect spot, especially if you're doing anything on a budget. So, I mean, we're in our office right now, and right here, we made this into a bedroom. We've actually made our office into a full house by just putting up some plywood and then kind of just set dressing. Like set dressing plays such a huge part, especially if you're working on a very, very small budget. So that's one way that we've kind of utilized it. Whenever we do have a budget though, as far as interiors, once again, just jumping online. I've done a lot of times I'll jump onto Facebook and saying, I'm looking for this type of bedroom, a child's bedroom that has this type of bed, a bunk bed. Does anyone have any rooms like this? And I'll have friends of friends tagging people and saying, hey, doesn't your son have a bedroom like this? And getting locations that way. And a lot of times I'll jump on Google, find images from other movies that I really like. And then I'm posting those on Instagram, on Facebook and saying, hey, does anyone know of a location like this? And then I'm using my friends, my audience to help me find locations. So that's another way that we've utilized several times.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I've definitely found that. And like you're talking earlier about just Utah and finding locations, there's a lot of groups, and I'm sure this is the case over the whole country. There's a lot of filming central groups, and those can be used as great sources for both casting, location scouting, and so forth. And I'm amazed at how many people are just wanting to be a part of that process and willing to help. And beyond that, obviously, like Devin said, you have your whole network to tap into, and turn a regular space into the space that you need it to be. So we have our sixth winner. Super excited for Tony Lindkold. Tony Lindkold from Facebook. So DM us your info. You're a sixth winner, Tony. Super excited for you. So now for our project for Grounded, for those that don't know, we're making a short film based on your guys' stories that you submitted called Grounded. It's about this character who's really at this low point in life. He felt like he's lost everything, where his mother passed away when he was younger, but most recently his father, he's the last one at home, and he just found out he's lost his job too. So he's at this spot where he really just needs to get out. And so we're filming this in two main spots. We have a day that we're doing our interiors, and then we're doing our exteriors. And because the central theme of this is connecting with people through space, we're actually going to be heading far, far south in Utah to get away from all the lights, all the traditional cities, and get out into nature. And so we're actually going to be filming, and it's maybe a little well known, but we're going to be doing some shooting for the astrophotography in Bryce Canyon. It's a national park that's amazing. And so we're really excited to go down there and explore nature. And this brings me to the second point that people need to think about locations. And I want to get your feedback on, Devin. And that's, okay, we need the location to look an ideal way as much as possible, but what are some other things that you need to be prepared for what a location has to do in terms of, whether it's just craft or space to stage your gear? What are some of those other things that we need to keep in mind when looking for a location?
Yeah, I think sound is a huge part of it that a lot of people oversee. And what I mean by that is, okay, you have this incredible location, but it's right next to the freeway where cars are going by and people are honking constantly. Okay, you're right next to an airport where every 2 minutes an airplane is flying overhead. So what I learned a while ago is if you know the day you're shooting, let's just say you're going to be filming Monday morning, if you can go a Monday morning at the same location and just sit there and actually listen and just see as far as, okay, this is how it sounds. This is how it's probably going to sound next week on a Monday. It will give you a much better idea as far as that location of how well it's really going to work out. And then lighting is a huge part for me just because I'm so focused on the visuals as far as, okay, for me, I want this location to look the best with the lighting. So what time of day should I be here? So I spent the last 2 weeks filming in Oregon everywhere. So I was doing those kind of secrets I shared earlier as far as like Googling the best locations, but I use an app called Sun Scout. So it's not too expensive on your phone. And any location I go to, I jump on that app and I can point that app and it'll tell me exactly where the sun's going to rise, at what time, and where it's going to set. And then I'll plan when I'm going to be at that location, same location, at what time to get the best lighting possible as well. So those are a couple little secrets that I use every time I'm filming on location outside.
Perfect. On that note, when thinking of exteriors, there's a lot, like we can't just lean on the sun as a lighting source. What are some things that you do to prepare? I mean, obviously you've done the big end side, like on a smaller end side, what do we do to prepare to work with the sun to our advantage, with some gear that we might have as modifiers?
Yeah, so if you're filming outside during daylight, it's very hard to really bring in much more than that, especially if you're not trying to spend thousands and thousands of dollars like the Hollywood productions. So the bounce board, just a big white car that you can buy at Home Depot for $10, $15. For me, that's one of the things we use almost every time when we're filming outside, one of the few things. A silk, another big thing, just something you can kind of overhead, hang over somebody or kind of right in front of the sun to kind of diffuse the light. Those are probably the two biggest things that we personally use whenever we're filming outside on location. Now, nighttime's a completely different story as far as now you have to bring in lights and working that out. But as far as just filming in broad daylight, which so many of our productions we do, those are the things that we're utilizing.
Absolutely. It's amazing to me what that $15 like beadboard can do in terms of like really shaping the light. On most fashion shoots that I'm on, I find that that's like our number one tool. Like as good as the camera is, as good as, you know, even the talent behind and in front of the lens, it's that like $15 thing that really makes the shot.
Yep.
So don't forget about these simple things that can take it from, you know, just average to truly stellar. So on, we got our 7th giveaway ready to go here. And again, this is for homeschool, a course that Devin's worked to put together to give you some of his social media secrets about blowing up your channels and getting those clients that you want. And so that 7th winner is Samara Creative on Instagram. So Samara, be sure to send us your email and we'll get that taken care of. We're looking forward to getting this course in your hands. And I forgot to mention, I believe there's over 5 hours of content, right, Devin, currently?
Roughly somewhere in there. And we're adding to it. Like in a couple of weeks, we're actually launching a bunch more content. So it's not like today is the end of it all. Like, and we put so much time into this. Like we've been working on this since last year, like the end of last year. And it was, our whole thing was just giving back to the community and helping people have opportunities to make a living on social media through all the things we've learned over the last 10 years of making a living doing it.
Absolutely. Well, huge thank you to you for just being willing to share that knowledge. And so, you know, you're an inspiration to the film community, so keep it up. On this note of our project for Grounded, you know, there's going to be times where, because we're not using a paid location in some regards, what are some things that you do to sort of work around and like make sure that you can still get your shots, but like be respectful of that environment that you're in?
Yeah, so you mentioned Bryce Canyon. I've filmed in Bryce Canyon as well. So it's just knowing where you're going to be. Like it's a national park. So once you have like more than a couple people, national parks will actually shut you down. And if you don't have film permits, you can get away with it if you're just a small crew. So just knowing, okay, we actually have permits for this location and they are expecting at least 10 to 15 people. So you're going to be fine that way. And it's also being respectful of the cultures. Like, okay, you're filming right next to a synagogue where they have it quiet during this time of the day. So also kind of timing, okay, we should come at a different time where we're going to be speaking a little bit louder to be respectful for that. So it's just being very mindful of where you're at, where you're filming and what you're trying to capture.
Yeah, for sure. And so, part of that, staying nimble as a small crew, being ultra respectful of everyone around you, especially if it's a spot you're not paying for. And then one thing I found too is that I found in cities, especially like when you're in that public of an area, like tripods are kind of like the no-go. Like you can't be setting up a shot with that. So keep in mind what gear you're using as you do a shot to be nimble and to be able to, if needed, pack up and get out. So great. Well, we have our, let's see here. Now we're to our 8th winner. We've got just 3 more spots. So 8th winner from Instagram, we got Zion Raymond, Raiment. So Zion, shoot us a message and we'll get you that course. So super excited for all of you. And huge thank you to Homeschool for putting this on and being able to help support us, and Your Story Matters. For those of you that don't know about this campaign, there's a lot of information about it on our website that we've built. It's yourstorymatters.rhinocameragear.com. We have a full schedule of all the live streams we'll be doing. You can access the script from there that we've been putting together, see a complete list of all the sponsors that are helping us out on this project. So be sure to check that out. So, and as we start to get closer to a wrap up, I would love for people to be submitting questions that they may have for Devin, whether it's around location scouting or just for Devin in general. We'd love to address some of those at the end. Devin, what are some things that maybe, what are some other kind of last minute wrap ups around what we haven't discussed already that we should keep in mind as we location scout for our films?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to think, because I filmed the last 2 weeks in Oregon, going to national parks, going in the middle of nowhere. I think is just figuring out how can you tell your story best with the locations that you have. I think a lot of beginner filmmakers, they feel you need to have really telephoto lenses that don't really show off the location because they love that shallow depth of field. And then you lose this incredible location. Like if you have an incredible location, use wide angle lenses or wider lenses to show how incredible and make people feel like they're right there, a part of it. So I think you see a lot of beginner filmmakers, they do that. So I strongly suggest when you can, if you have a really good location, use wide shots to kind of show and capture that and make people feel a part of that. But I mean, locations are huge. If you go to our YouTube channel, Devin Supertramp, you'll see all our locations. We try and have these incredible locations all around the world. And usually we're filming the intros of our videos during golden hour when the sun's rising or sun's setting, because you have these wide locations. So you want to hit it when the light's the best. So we're always utilizing that. And there's been times too where I go to a location, have all my people that I'm filming, and it's like a super cloudy, overcast day, which sometimes is good if you're filming people, but locations, I don't like filming locations when it's a cloudy day. So there's been times where I film like the close-up stuff, and I said, okay, we're gonna actually come back tomorrow if the budget or your time allows, and we're gonna film this again because tomorrow it's going to be a sunny day. So we're always looking up the weather ahead of time, and especially drones, so we use a lot of drones. So we're always looking up, okay, that location tomorrow, what's the wind report actually going to be? And then we're kind of dictating when we're shooting with drones, when we're filming the wide shots based on the weather, location, wind, just so many variables affect everything that you're doing. So definitely just kind of keeping everything in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up a great point there of drone photography. For anyone that's used a drone before, you most likely know about this app, but if you haven't, before you fly, it's actually an app put out by, I believe the government actually put it together, but it helps you understand your proximity to airports and other no-fly zones. And so that's always a great one that I check too, in addition to the weather, to make sure that we got clearance to fly within those limitations. So we've got a couple people asking here, how are we winning these prizes, or how are we giving out these prizes? So if you didn't hear in the beginning, what we're doing is, as we have these streams each week, there's going to be certain weeks like today where we have multiple giveaways throughout the course of the stream. Just be a part of the stream, be active in the comments, and that will basically put your name into a lottery type system to be able to be selected to win some of these prizes. And so on that note, we've got our 9th giveaway for today of the homeschool course, which is Trello prints from YouTube. Trello prints. Okay. Send us a DM with your email. We'll get that course out to you. So speaking of questions that are coming in, we've got a question from somebody asking about overall, what's easier? Is it easier to film out the day, work with the sun and do that, or to bring in more light at a more controlled environment, so to speak, at nighttime? What have you found from your experience?
I think it's always easier to have full control of the lighting, like filming in a studio where you're not having to adjust things based on the lighting. With that said, that usually means you need a bigger budget because you're hiring a lot more people with lights and everything. So for me, especially starting off the first 5 or 6 years on social media, I was just using natural sunlight because that's what I had access to. And I was basing everything I was doing off where the sun was going to be. And just using that to my advantage. So that was kind of like how I was utilizing everything.
Absolutely. And going back to what you said earlier about reaching out to friends about, maybe using their house for a different location or interior things, remember what you have access to. For some of the productions I've worked on, we actually went to try and rent a warehouse or get into a lease situation where we'd be doing more studio work. And just like Devin mentioned earlier, it didn't dawn on us until almost a month into the process that there are semis driving by this place all day, every day. It's like an instant no-go for that. Even with some of the best sound treatment, it would have been very challenging. And we realized, well, we have, multi-car garages. Who needs to park in the garage, right? That's classic Hawaiian style, going back to that. And so we've since been converting our garage into a studio space, which you'll see in later videos as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. Okay, on our last giveaway here, we're going to do our last giveaway. This is from a YouTube user. So Arsenal Media, you guys just got the final giveaway for today. Again, thank you to Homeschool for being a part of this and getting in some more questions here from the group. So if you were to choose 3 focal lengths, Devin, for a crop sensor, what focal length do you prefer?
For nature landscape or for what type of filming?
There isn't that context. So if we get that context coming in, I'll add it. But let's just say, yeah, since we're talking location, let's talk.
Okay, yeah. So starting off in my career, I started because I was using a Canon 5D Mark II at the time, but that was a full sensor. But I've used a lot of crop sensors. Like if I were to choose 3 lenses for all filmmaking that I do, whether landscape, people, I'd say the Canon 16 to 35 2.8 L series lens, the Canon 50 millimeter, because that does really well in low light, and then the Canon 70 to 200 are like my 3 go-to lenses for whenever I travel anywhere. Those lenses always go with me. And then the bonus lens would be the Canon 11 and 24 millimeter. I can bring that as well. I love that for just super wide landscape shots. But those are my go-to lenses.
Absolutely. So we've got 2 drone questions coming in here. One was just a reminder about that app. So the 2 apps that we've talked about today, one not related to drones, but is Sunfinder, or what was the one that you mentioned, Devin?
Yeah, so the app I use for whenever I go location scouting is called Sun Scout. So I believe it's on Android and iPhones, but I use it for iPhone. And it's not too expensive, but it shows exactly where the sun rises, sun sets. But yeah, just Sun Scout. If you look it up on the Apple Store, it'll pop right up.
Perfect. And then the other app specific to knowing where airports are is Before You Fly. So it's like the most annoying name. It's the letter B, number 4, letter U, fly, FLY. So search for that. And that's a really helpful resource. Devin, have you ever used a drone for doing some of your location scouting? And if so, like what are some strategies to keep in mind with that?
We have never used a drone for location scouting, actually. Usually we'll see like photos online that sometimes they are taken from drones, but I'm normally not saying, okay, I think this is gonna be a location, then drive all the way out there and then fly up my drone. Because normally the drone is usually a bonus if I get anything. The story is usually down low with all the action going on, and that's what I care what it really looks like. So I've never done actual location scouting with a drone, but for some types of shooting, whereas all landscape stuff, I think it could work out great.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good thought from whoever commented that. I think it's definitely, drones can be useful, especially if you're in really like dense locations that you need to just get bird's eye view. No better way than with a drone. So another question coming in, how has COVID been affecting some of your productions, and what can we keep in mind with that to, strategically prepare?
Yeah, so COVID essentially shut down every one of our production. So it's been a pretty funky year for us, mind you, just because we were doing a big one with Universal Studios for Fast and Furious 9 with Vin Diesel, and he was going to have a big cameo in it. Like the week before shooting is when all California got shut down, and then all our other projects that we had lined up in Japan, Cambodia, like a lot of our productions are all international traveling. So with COVID, it's kind of said, nope, none of that's going to happen right now. So we've had to film a lot of stuff locally. So on our behind the scenes channel, we started filming a lot of short stories just in our office with the rest of our team. So we have a small team right now. There's 4 of us, and we've just gone around just doing short stories with us acting in them, with us directing as the other person shooting the camera, just to help us tell stories and become better filmmakers that way. And as things have slowly started to open up in the States, we started traveling a little bit further out of Utah, where I was in Oregon last week, and just kind of doing stuff with nature, with where we can be safe from COVID and also be responsible. But it's definitely had a massive effect on us. And we've had to change the way we do our business because of that.
And I think to your credit, I mean, you've always been creative and been able to pivot according to what you have to do, right? And I think that as filmmakers, that's just what we got to be prepared to do, is change, whether it's a client's needs change and it dramatically affects our production, or a worldwide pandemic. You know, that's a hard one to plan for, but somehow we're working our way through it. So go out, and if you didn't win a homeschool giveaway today, you can support Devin by getting that subscription. That'll be really helpful, especially as some of these productions are a little delayed. So we have a couple more questions coming in, and this one I'm genuinely curious about too. Back when you were doing your initial videos, doing all your GlideCam work, you're on the 5D Mark II, which essentially did not have autofocus. Canon's since gotten a lot better at dual pixel autofocus. What did you do back then, and even now, as maybe you're doing more work with Red and other cameras, to keep your subject in focus while doing these, you know, very comprehensive moves?
So I never use autofocus, even when I have a camera that uses autofocus. I grew up not using autofocus, so that's all I know. I have the option, but don't use it. Now, for me, if I'm filming landscape, I'm setting the focus to 20 feet away or 30 feet away. And because it's a wide angle lens, almost everything is in focus anyway. So that's not so much an issue because I'm moving the camera, everything's going to be in focus. But the issue becomes when I'm filming people. Let's just say I'm filming you right now and you're 5 feet away from me and I'm on a 35mm lens. I'll pull focus to you, and then I'll keep that distance as I'm glide camming or as I'm walking with you. So everything is still in focus on you. Now, occasionally you'll walk out of focus a little bit and then the shot's kind of not perfect. But usually when you're watching it on YouTube or anywhere, people don't notice that it's slightly out of focus for a half a second. And if it's really bad, I'll just cut the shot, or I'll cut right before it starts going out of focus. So that's how I've been able to do it. But it's not really become an issue. It's just keeping roughly that same distance of 5 feet or whatever I set it to, walking with the subject. I'll even let my actor know, saying, okay, we're going to pull focus with you. You're going to walk with me and try and keep the same pace that I'm walking, or I'll try and match the pace that you're walking, so they continue to stay in focus.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And you know, that's something that, especially if you're using a paid talent to help you with, they understand positioning and being on a mark. And even if it's somebody that's new to that, just work with them to be like, okay, look at where we're at now and let's work together, because so much of our production is all the parts working together to make it happen and become a reality. So, well, Devin, thank you so much for your time today. We've got one final question here before we wrap. And you mentioned parts of this earlier, but just in case this person hopped on late, for an international shoot, when we get a chance to go back and shoot internationally and we aren't as familiar with the place, maybe the infrastructure at that particular location isn't as good as it can be with the various film commissions that we have here, what are some ways that we can best prepare for that location scouting, or even like find a fixer in that given location?
Yeah, so I'll give an example. Japan, I went there last year and did a big video just showing off everything. So I just jump onto Google and started searching top places in Japan. And then I based my entire trip off of that. Now, there's sometimes though where I'll have, okay, someone reaches out to me and saying, hey, I'm from the country of Uzbekistan. I love to host you. These are the top locations in my country. What locations stand out to you that you would like to film a parkour video in? And then I'll tell him the locations I want, and then he'll essentially act as a fixer and he'll arrange everything according to what I tell him I want to do based on what he sent me. That's kind of the ideal scenario where you have someone from the country that knows the culture, knows the language, knows the people, and then use him or her to kind of work around everything. And I feel that's usually when we get the best products or the best video possible, is when we're using someone from that location.
Absolutely. Use the person that knows the area. So do your best to reach out, find those people. I found that even in this process, the best way to make the connection is just to put yourself out there and do what you can to make it happen. Again, Devin, thank you so much for being here with us today. Part of the Your Story Matters campaign by Rhino. We're going to be here next week, guys. We're going to be with DP Drew Williams. He's actually another local here in Utah. We're going to be having him assist us on this shoot for the Grounded film that we've discussed a little bit here today. To learn more about that project and the whole Your Story Matters campaign, be sure to go to yourstorymatters.rhinocameragear.com. We'll have the link in the description as we post this officially after this live. And also, don't forget to go out to our sponsor site today, homeschool.com. That's school, SKOOL.com. And there you'll see there's still a pre-release price for $99 for Devin's course. That price, it's going to go up here in about 3 more weeks. So be sure to get on there, get that early bird price. And you heard about it here on Your Story Matters. Thanks so much again, Devin. We're looking forward to just seeing more of what you do with your career. Best of luck with everything else that's going on in the world right now. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And definitely check out Homeschool. I promise you guys, if you have any desire to become a filmmaker full-time, if that's something you're looking into, it goes through all those secrets and how to accomplish it, and with actual like real things that work and make it different. So I'm just excited for you guys to experience it firsthand. But thank you guys very much.
Perfect. Thank you, Devin. We'll see you.
See you guys.